Hi, this is Carrie Brothers talking to you again. In this module, we'll be talking about quality child care and licensing. This is one of the areas, of course, that you have to have some training in within the first 30 days of employment at your center. Before we really get into what's more about licensing and stuff, we need to talk about what quality child care is. And our national organization for early child care called NACE, National Academy of Early Childhood Programs, defines a high quality early childhood program as one that meets the needs and promotes the physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development of children and adults, families, staff, and administrators who are involved in the program. So NACE recognizes that we're looking at the child, but we're also there to serve the families and the staff. And so it's a team effort, all of us working together to promote quality growth in childhood. All right, so some elements that make up a good quality child care program. These are the things that you want to see. If you were taking or considering a place for your own child, these are things that you would look for. These are things that we tell people to look for when they are looking for a child care program for their own children. We want to see good teacher-child interactions. We want to see that teachers are not just telling the kids what to do and when to do it, but that there are some good relationships in there. And you can see that through the interactions. We want to see a good, solid curriculum. We want to see that the staff-child ratios are low. We want to see fewer number of kids per adults as possible. We want to see low staff turnover. The concern with high staff turnover is that, first of all, the staff may not be treated the way they should be treated, but even more importantly than that is that when there's a high staff turnover, the children are not having the consistency that they need to grow the way they need to, especially emotionally and socially. We want to see that staff are highly qualified and continue to have professional development. We want to see that the program administration is solid. We want to know that the physical environment that the children are in, both the building and the playground, are safe places for the kids to be. We want to know that there is a healthy relationship between teachers and families. Like I said, it's a team effort. Teachers and families are working together to help the kids. And sometimes that may mean teachers giving information to families about what is developmentally appropriate and what is healthy. We're talking about health and safety. That should say health and safety, not healthy and safety. And we're also talking about nutrition and food service. We want to be giving the children good, healthy food while they're in our care. All right, so this is a silly question, maybe, but why is quality child care important? Well, because it meets the needs of the child where they are in their development. We want to be able to take care of these kids so that they can grow and learn in a healthy way. And the term that we in our field throw out a whole lot is the term developmentally appropriate or developmentally appropriate practice. And what this is age appropriateness, like it says here, plus individual appropriateness. So we are going to be looking at what is generally good for a certain age range, but also at the individual children and what individual children are capable of doing. I have 3 daughters of my own, and they are all above daycare age. But just in looking at them at their ages 12, 10, and 8, they are in different places with their age, obviously, but also the individual appropriateness. My youngest daughter is really is a more fluent reader than my middle daughter, and that's just because that's where she is. That's how she's been made, and so I know that I need to meet them in different places individually while encouraging them to continue to grow and to challenge themselves in appropriate ways. in appropriate ways. Okay, so who does quality child care benefit? The child, the family, and the community. And I think you probably can guess the answers on each of these, or can give me the reasons on each of these. But of course, quality child care benefits the individual child, because the child is in these very, very critical years of development, and when they're being taken care of, when they're being encouraged to grow, when they're being encouraged to learn, then they're going to grow and very, very likely be upstanding members in their community, contributing members of the community. So the community is going to be served from this. The children that you are serving now are children that are going to be doctors one day, and engineers one day, and teachers one day, and veterinarians one day, and even, working in jobs that we might not, dream for our kids, but are very, very important, like working in a grocery store or a gas station. We want these children, as they grow up, no matter what they're doing, to be able to do it well, and to be able to do it with honesty and integrity. And then, of course, when we can help the child to grow and develop properly, when he or she goes home, the family is going to feed off of that as well. And this can help build quality families also. Okay, just some interesting statistics here. Most brain development, 75% of it, in fact, occurs during the first 3 years after birth. And this is huge. This is huge. So if you have a person who, lives to be 90 years old, 75% of his or her brain development occurred before they were even 3 years old, which is, that's just incredible to me, that these 3 years are so critical. We have them at a very, very critical time, and we need to do what we can in these 3 years to serve them and to help them to grow. And I keep using that term serve because that's really what it is. We're giving of ourselves for the good of somebody else. In order to succeed, not just in school, but really in relationships and in life, children need quality learning experiences before they enter school. These quality learning experiences will help them to develop social and emotional skills, as well as maybe some academic skills that they need so that they can do well as they enter kindergarten. Studies show that a child's ability to learn can increase or decrease by 25% or more depending on whether he or she grows up in a stimulating environment. Okay, so that is really crazy. That is really crazy. Studies indicate that a child's ability to learn can increase or decrease by 25% or more depending on whether she or he grows up in a stimulating environment. So you can look at a 20 or 25 or 30-year-old person and their ability to learn as an adult is dependent very much so on what type of environment that child grew up in, decades earlier. So what you're doing now is not just affecting the child now, but also outcomes later in life. The importance of children's early experiences to the future development cannot be minimized. These are critical years, and being in a classroom is hard. I've been in a classroom for years before, and I know it's hard, and I know it can be frustrating, but it's also so critical. And so if we are in this field of child development, of early child care, we need to be committed to giving them a stimulating but not overstimulating environment so that they can grow and learn and have experiences and know and learn how to treat people and learn how to process things. Very, very important. So children who attend quality, I'm going to emphasize the word quality there, children who attend quality early childhood programs are better prepared to adjust in kindergarten and school, both academically and socially and emotionally. They demonstrate greater skills on tests of cognitive ability and language development. They are assigned to special education programs less frequently. They demonstrate greater social competence as preschoolers in kindergarten and primary grades in secondary school years. Okay, and let's just talk just for a second about the implications of this bullet here. They demonstrate greater social competence as preschoolers in kindergarten and early in primary grades in secondary school years. So this is interesting because in these years, the children are, building relationships with people, and this is setting the stage for relationships all through childhood and all through through adolescence and early adulthood. And so, if they have a hard time making and developing relationships in these early childhood programs, if they have a hard time with that, they're probably going to have a difficult time with relationships as they get older through school and into adulthood. Children who attend quality early childhood programs show greater motivation for learning and commitment to schooling. Okay, they're more interested in learning and commitment to schooling. Getting through high school is a big thing for a lot of people. Some people are more inclined to go a little bit past high school into college and maybe some graduate school. But certainly we want every single child in our care to at least graduate from high school. Studies show that success in life is so much greater with this high school education at the very least. Okay, and they're more likely to graduate and pursue post-secondary education or training. Okay, so after, again, this last two statements kind of say the same thing, but this time that you have with the kids between just a few weeks and 4 or 5 years are setting them up with schooling, with education later on, with relationships. This is an important time, and I just want to emphasize again that you have a lot of influence on these children. These children are spending more time in your care than they are probably at home. And so that means that you have got to commit to having a quality classroom so that they can develop these skills, which is going to require a lot of patience on your part. Okay, so looking at the state minimum standards, there are certain classroom ratios that have got to be met in licensed programs. You can see that here: 0 to 18 months is 1 to 5, 18 months to 2.5 years is 1 to 7, 24 months to 36 is 1 to 8, 2.5 to 11, 2.5 to 4 is 1 to 11, 4 to school age is 1 to 18. Okay, so you have to have no fewer than one adult per this other number on the other side. 5 babies or 7 toddlers or 8 2-year-olds, 11 3 and 4-year-olds, and 18 4-year-olds. Okay, you have to do this. If DHR comes in and finds out that you have 11 babies in your classroom and only 2 adults, then you're breaking ratio, and you could get in big trouble for this. If DHR came in and found that you had 19 kids in your 4-year class, you could get in big trouble for this. Don't do that. Don't get yourselves in trouble, and don't get people in your center in trouble. The ratios are slightly different when the kids are resting, when they're napping, and you can see these numbers here: 1 to 5, 1 to 14, and 1 to 36. And the reason for this, obviously, is that when the kids are sleeping, they're not going to require as much attention. But when they start waking up, you need to be sure that you have those other ratios on this previous slide back in place in your classroom. Now, you working in child care are required to have training every single year. You're required to. DHR says you have to do it. If you are the child care director, you have to be at least 19 years of age or older. You have to have at least 20 clock hours of training in administration every single year. And you have to have 4 clock hours of quality child care training every single year. If you are a teacher, you have to also be at least 19 years old within 30 days of employment. And you have to have every single year at least 12 clock hours of child care development training through participation in workshops, staff and service trainings. It says here videotapes, which is kind of old-fashioned. So, but you know, through some type of digital training or one-to-one consultation. You will receive certificates when you finish these trainings, and those can be applied to those. And when DHR comes in, they look for these certificates to make sure that you have had the trainings that you need to have. And we talked about this a little bit in the introduction, so this is a little bit of a review, but the trainings have to include at least 2 hours in each of the 6 DHR categories. So let's look at that here. Actually, right now what we're going to do is we're going to look at CPR and first aid. You need to have CPR training. You need to be sure that every 2 years your CPR training is renewed. And in this CPR training, you should learn the CPR and first aid for the children, and then also for the little ones, for the little bitty babies. So be sure, if you're a director, that you make sure that people on your staff get trained. You can look in your state minimum standards for exactly how many people in your center have to be trained. I am just going to say the more people who are trained in CPR and first aid, the better. So I would encourage every single person in here or who's listening to this to be sure that they're trained and to go above the minimum standards, especially in this area. You don't want to be in a situation where there's no one around with CPR training. All right, so on the back of your training certificate, you are going to see different training areas that DHR requires. And we've got child development, health, safety, and universal precautions, quality child care and licensing, the child care professional and the family, language development, positive discipline and guidance, and administration and management. All right, sorry, I had to pause there for just a second. You are going to also see on the back of your certificate, we'll look at that in a minute, child development content areas that you need to get training in. A lot of these overlap. So we want to see planning a safe and healthy environment that will help invite learning, steps to advancing children's physical and intellectual development, positive ways to support children's social and emotional development, strategies to establish productive relationships with families. Remember, it's an important component is working with families, strategies to manage an effective program, maintaining a commitment to professionalism, observing and recording children's behavior, and principles of child growth and development. Okay, so those are the CDA content areas that you have to reach. The CCDF areas here, these also have to be met every year. We at CDR, we tackle 1 through 11 in our trainings here. Okay, and we also have certain age groups. This is how we break down the different ages. Infants are birth to 12 months, toddlers are 1 and 2 year olds, which is 13 to 36 months. Preschoolers are 3 and 4 year olds. School agers are 5 to 12, and sometimes you'll see the word all, which is going to be the infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school agers. When you get training certificates, on the back of your training certificate, which will be a cardstock, you'll see all of what I just talked about then. You'll see the training levels, the DHR minimum standard areas, child development content areas, Alabama Pathways Course in Knowledge, and CCDF training areas. And this is not complete right here, but this is basically what you'll see on the back of your training certificate. If you need any help with trying to decipher what's on the front of your training certificate. All right, trainings are also broken down into different levels. We have the basic, intermediate, advanced, and the ones for all. Basic trainings would be like what you are doing right now. This is an entry level for an entry level professional who's new to early childhood and school age care. And it covers foundational understanding and demonstration of developing skills. So these are the things that everybody needs to know. And we offer a lot of these with CDR, and hope that you'll jump on board with these. Intermediate are generally for people who have had at least 2 years of experience in the classroom, 120 areas of training and child development, and are moving towards a more formal education. Somebody who is leaning a little bit towards some type of college degree, or furthering their education in this early childhood field. And somebody in this intermediate category includes wants to expand their knowledge and apply and refine the skills they already have. And then the advanced levels are for professionals who have actually been in the classroom for 3 years. They need to have 30 credit hours of child development. So that means they have gone and taken some community college, or maybe some undergraduate classes in child development. And this focuses on a more thorough knowledge and understanding of developmentally appropriate practice. So yeah, this is developmentally appropriate practice, but why is it developmentally appropriate practice? We're looking at more highly effective application and demonstration of skill. So these are for the people who have been in the field a little bit longer, and are just really wanting and needing to continue to grow. All right, so learning environments, indoor and outdoor. You need in your center, in your classroom, 32 square feet of indoor activity space for each child. Okay, places like bathrooms, kitchens, isolation rooms, office hallways, storage closets, they cannot be used when considering this space. So I'm going to do a little bit of math right now. If you have, pull out my little calculator here. If you have 12 children in your classroom, you need to have no less than 384 feet in your classroom, so square feet in your classroom. If you have, let's say, 14 kids in your classroom, you need to have no fewer than 448 feet per classroom. And DHR does measure this, so you need to be sure that you have this. When less than 60 kids are there at your daycare, there should be at least 60 square feet of outdoor outdoor play area for each child. And there must be separate play areas for kids under 2.5 years of age. Now, this is all in your state minimum standards that you should have really already read at this point. And definitely, if you haven't read it, you need to go ahead and do this. All of this is in there, plus more. So have fun reading that. One of the things that we really, really want to see in daycare centers are these learning centers in each classroom. And this is an environment that provides learning experiences to meet the individual needs of the child. So instead of letting the kids have just, play wild abandon all the time, we want to have some type of loose organization in the classroom, okay? And sometimes these are going to overlap, and that's okay. Sometimes it's okay for dramatic play to come into the block area, okay? Books can be all over the room, but there needs to be a designated place for books. But, it's great to take a book over into the science area, especially if it's a science book and something in the science area, something in the science area illustrates something in a book. So these can all overlap to some degree, but you do need to have separate areas in the classroom: blocks, books, dramatic play, art, manipulative science, math, and group time. And these are all pretty typical. I would also say that these things need to be changed out. The block area doesn't need to look the same month after month after month, and you need to rotate books out. You need to rotate the costumes out. You don't need to always have out the same art experiences. Give the kids some variety. They're going to get bored quickly, and remember, we want them to be excited about learning, and they're not going to be excited about learning and growing if they're bored. If they're bored. I do want to point out that we do not advocate for sitting down and drilling kids. You need to be very familiar with what kids are doing typically at different ages and what they're capable of. And really respecting where they are developmentally. Most kids are not going to be wanting to use the bathroom, before they're 2 or 2.5 years old. So don't push it too early. Most 3-year-olds aren't going to be really interested in learning how to read. All they want is to be sat down and be read to. And we want them to be excited about reading when they are ready to actually start reading themselves. So we want to give them a lot of freedom within these boundaries that you set up for them. Okay? In the art area, do not give them coloring sheets day after day after day. That allows for almost no creativity. Give them freedom in what they're doing. If you see art, a bunch of art that looks exactly the same, they have had no creative experience at all. Give them those experiences. Don't make them all the time, play the same thing in the dramatic play or build the same things in the block area. Give them that freedom. Okay, so talking just real briefly about curriculum. Curriculum is a plan designed to use your program's philosophy or goals or objective to help foster the development of children. And most places need to have some type of purchased curriculum or something like that. And there's some really good curriculums out there that you can purchase, and this provides the framework for actually happens in a planned environment where children interact with materials, their peers and adults. So this basically is going to be a framework for everything that happens in the classroom. It's going to help you get ideas about what to talk about, what books to use, what types of art experiences, things you can talk about anecdotally. It's really great to get a really, really good curriculum and to use it. With the curriculum comes a lot of accountability also. There are some places that can, well, I'm not going to even say that. A curriculum offers accountability. It helps you to know where you're going, but it helps you to check yourself with the curriculum. Am I keeping on target here? This helps the teachers to provide, to have developmentally appropriate goals. This helps the teachers remember what are children capable of that point. If you have a good quality curriculum, it probably is not going to be encouraging you to teach the kids how to read when they're 3 years old, or teaching 18-month-old their shapes or something like that. Because a good quality curriculum is going to recognize what children are capable of at different ages. It's also going to respect the DHR minimum standards. Okay, so in a curriculum, you're going to see a daily schedule, or what would be a good daily schedule for your classroom. That, of course, is going to probably have to be bent a little bit based on the needs of your classroom and your center, but it should give you some type of basic idea about this. It'll have talk about a comfortable and a safe learning environment. It'll talk about different learning centers you can have and what would be good to have in the learning centers. It'll provide you with daily lesson plans that can help guide you through the day. I do want to point out, though, with those daily lesson plans, that there are going to be times where something comes up and you may need to veer from the lesson plan because something else has come up in the classroom that is just a great teachable moment. Or a festivity or something like that. So don't be so bent on the daily lesson plans that the curriculum provides that you don't look at the individual needs of the kids in the classroom or the needs of the classroom as a whole. It'll help give you a monthly calendar, of course, and it'll help you to know what to communicate with your parents and when to do that, on top of just regular daycare communication that you need to have. So that is the end of our little slideshow here, but again, I want to remind you that you really do have to read the state minimum standards. Your director should have a copy of this for you to either have or borrow that you do have to read. You need to refer back to it if you have any questions. If you have any detailed questions about the state minimum standards, you need to contact your DHR representative, and they will help to decipher any of that information for you. Again, thanks for spending the last 30 or 40 minutes listening to me talk here, and thanks again for working with us as we get this online stuff put together.